Viewers, welcome to the program of Maarifa. Today we have a visitor from the United States of America, who is Dr. Peter Baofu. He's going to introduce himself. He's a very extraordinary scholar in 148 books. He's now traveling almost to 100 different nations, in which he talk to the media and to the universities about his theories. Now, would you please introduce yourself, Doctor?
Okay, first let me say thank you for inviting me. I have written more than 148 books, and in relation to the mind, nature, society, and culture, which means that I have written in all topics. The reason I do that is because I want to come up with some new visions about the future. I have proposed more than 115 of them on all topics, whether in the social sciences, the natural sciences, the formal sciences, or the humanities. That's why I said in relation to the mind, nature, society, and culture. And that is very important. And the reason that I go into this global tour is because I want to discover humanity on the ground, not just by reading a book in the library or talking to someone or just watching a documentary, but to discover something on the ground, to engage with the people. And that, I think, can give me some new insight about humanity in a way that no one has done before. Okay. So that's a very, very tremendous project that I have been doing.
Okay, that's something very, very interesting, that you are almost excelling, almost roaming, almost touching all sciences we know. What is specifically, if I may ask, brought you to Tanzania?
Well, this is part of my global tour. My focus is not just on Tanzania, there's also part of that too. It's about the whole humanity. That's why I don't just visit one country or one region or one continent. I visit all of them. And by the end of my project, it will be more than 100 countries. And I do that on purpose. In Africa, I have been in North Africa, Eastern Africa, Central Africa, Western Africa, and Southern Africa. So Tanzania is part of that region in Africa that I want to go to.
But somebody would just ask, who is funding that international tour to almost 100, plus countries?
Yeah. This is a very good question. I do something that not many people have done before. I do not want to be sponsored by any organization, any government, or any think tank, something like that, because if they give you money, what are they going to do? They control you. They control what you write. They will approve or disapprove what you write. So to avoid that, I avoid any of those funding. So I just fund myself in a limited manner. So I did it on purpose because I want to discover the truth. And I don't want to be bounded by any government or any think tank or any organization or anybody to tell me what to say. So that is very important for scholarship.
Okay, that's very nice. You have written a lot. You have talked about 148 books. And for sure, you have said you have traveled almost all over the world in different continents. And you had, for sure, a good number of interviews.
Many.
Now, what say, for example, from books and or from interviews which can help us? That you have written a lot. You have a good number of interviews.
Yeah.
What is it that which you find, say, for example, a certain book is important, or any talk of that nature?
Maybe I can give you some introduction or some of the visions that I have about the future. That will give you some idea of what I'm doing. For example, in America nowadays, but also in the rest of the world, we are living in the age of democracy and capitalism.
Yes.
Everyone believes, most people believe, that democracy and capitalism are the ultimate achievements of human history. Everyone say, I'm democratic, I want to be democratic. No one say, I am anti-democratic.
That
is a bad name. And you are supposed to, like, capitalistic development. Everyone wants to say something like that. No one are going to say, I'm a Marxist, I'm a communist. That's a bad word again. Now, I challenge that kind of conventional wisdom. I think that democracy and capitalism will not last. It will be replaced by new economic and political systems. And I call them in my publications post-democracy and post-capitalism. And these are just two examples of what I'm doing in my visions. I also propose, by the way, another theory because I have more than 115 of them. One of them is post-democracy, another one is post-capitalism, and the third one is what I call the theory about hyper-empires. I predicted more than 15 years ago, I published a book more than 15 years ago, that America could be in decline. China will be the next dominant superpower, and together with India too. Now, at that time, I remember a lot of people in the US, that when I did presentation like that, look at me and say, are you serious? Now, people don't talk like that anymore, taught me. That is what I'm doing. I challenge all conventional wisdom, including, by the way, another theory, vision is about civilization. I argue that the kind of civilization that we have on Earth is not sustainable. It will be replaced by a new kind of civilization. I call that post-civilization. The understanding between barbarity and civility has been misunderstood, has been flawed. That is what I'm doing, to challenge all conventional wisdom, no matter what topics they are. These are just 4 examples, by the way, but there are 115 of them to talk about.
But we have talked about the post-civilization. We talked about the post-democracy and the post-capitalism. Now, to those 3, or something like challenges or critiques, you come out with a very commanding theory out of those 3: post-democracy, post-capitalism, post-civilization. Are you coming up with what will be next, if one would ask? Or you mean the post-democracy will be the ultimate end?
No, no. If someone were to say something like that, then the person could be committing the same mistake that the previous generation have been committing. Just like right now, people have been saying that democracy and capitalism are the ultimate ends of human history. They are the highest achievement. There cannot be any political and economic system which can be better than the democratic and the capitalistic ones. And therefore, there's an ultimate, the highest. No. Even post-democracy and post-capitalism, by the way, there's not only one version. I propose more than 5 or 6 different versions, and they go for different stages. They also go for different developments, and not one of them is universal. They'll be competing with each other, and one will die out, and the next one will emerge, and then the next one will emerge and replace one. So post-democracy like that and post-capitalism like that is not one thing. It's not monolithic. It's many of them. They will be fighting with each other in the future. So, and then one will die, the next one will emerge and replace them, and the next one, they will keep fighting until they find a better and better one, but there's no end to it. It will not be the ultimate. So try to avoid the same mistake that other people have been talking about. By the way, this is a major problem in the history of ideas. A lot of thinkers in human history often commit the mistake. Thinking up with a new idea, and then new idea will be the ultimate achievement, the highest end, the highest good, and from now on history will just follow that one. It doesn't work like that. In fact, another theory I have not yet told you is what I call the theory of post-humanity. And in that theory I propose that humans like you and me will not last anymore. In the future there will be post-humans. Now the post-humans will think in a different way than we think. And one example is something like that. It's kind of thinking about the ultimateness. No, this is a part of the history that we have inherited. And that is also fundamentally flawed. And I'm challenging that too.
Now, are there any indicators which are just indicating the post-democracy reality or the post-capitalism
Yes.
reality and humanism, so to say?
Yes. In fact, in my book, which is called The Future of Capitalism and Democracy, it was that thick, more than about 1,000 pages. And also in another book, 2 volumes, Beyond Democracy to Post-Democracy, and then another book, Beyond Capitalism and to Post-Capitalism. I describe in details different versions which have been emerging, and they will evolve more and more in the future. And this is already happening right now, slowly, but they are graduating to a much more developed and mature fashion in the future. In fact, because you mentioned that what is happening in China nowadays is very profound. And people keep talking about the Sino-American rivalry, but they miss something very fundamental that they talk about. That China, in some way, is contributing to the emergence of post-democracy and post-capitalism that I predicted a long time ago. So in that, India will be the next. So people keep talking about in America, oh, China is the threat, it's going to replace America and all that. But this is just a sideline issue in the shorter term. The longer term is that China is proposing, consciously or unconsciously, a new way of development, a new way of do civilization, a new way to do politics, a new way to do economics, but there's only one version. Remember, post-democracy, post-capitalism is not monolithic. It's different versions. Women, by the way, I also talk about women in my books too. They too will be contributing to the emergence of post-capitalism in this case, and also post-democracy too. But there's another version.
Yeah, because I was just
Islam is also another one, by the way. And in America, Islam is not popular, but in the Middle East, in Africa, for example, you have a lot of countries that are Islamic. I also make a prediction in those publications that they have a tremendous impact on the future of post-democracy and post-capitalism. So now, all of a sudden, all the conventional wisdoms that we have been believing in are being challenged. And that's why this is so profound. And this is only the beginning, by the way. This is only the beginning, not even the end. Or some people might think the end of history. It's just American post-war, post-Cold War propaganda. We are only at the beginning of new ideas. There are more new ideas to come, many of them. I propose 115 to show the world. There are so many new ideas that we have not yet discovered. We are in the process of discovering more of them.
Yeah, I was just asking myself, a position of, say, for example, religion, and you mentioned women, but I had another question of which people could see the Middle East, and sometimes talking about and Israel, whether it could do more than India you're mentioning about. What is the position so far, and especially to do with the Middle East, the Gulf, talk about especially the Middle East in general? Is it connected to the to India, or just it's not? It's time. I mean, the post-capitalism, post-democracy. As you say you have China today, India will be next. But somebody said that it will be the Middle East.
Yeah, not this book, in another book, and that's called Beyond the World of Titans, and the Remaking of World Orders. And in that book, I talk about different changes of the post-Cold War era into what I call the post-Cold War era, in which different powers will change, different groupings will change. And China, for example, and India is part of what I call the hyper-empires. For example, the America, especially in relation to NAFTA, Canada, and Mexico, and all that, even Trump is trying to change that, to revise that, to make that better, will be what I call the Meso Empire, together with the European Union. Now, Latin America is another one that you did not mention, and the Middle Eastern one that you just mentioned will be another region. It's what I call the Meso Empire, the micro empires, for example. So that will fit into the region that you want to talk about right now by asking me what is the future of that. And to understand that, you have to understand that kind of order that I'm proposing. And they are emerging now. But it will take some more time. I'm not that concerned about the problem between Israel and the Palestinians. I think that it overblows. there are a lot of problems in the Middle East. So in America, people think too much about Israel and the Palestinians, now Iraq, Afghanistan, and all that. I'm not that concerned about this. This is a short-term problem. In the longer term, some fundamental change of the geopolitical order will take place. And I look in the longer term.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is a fundamental one. And I think that in that case, Islam has a fundamental role to play in the Middle East to come. Okay. And that it will shake the geopolitical order in that region. That will be another region is competing with the global order and influence in the future.
Yeah. What I just would talking about is just you try to view the world, post-democracy and post-capitalism to have the hyper nations on the lead. There are the means on the in between and the base. Mm-hmm. Those base was, although I did not mention them. But what I'm concerned with is whether you have a foundation so far. Could you please tell us if you have it?
And
foundation.
What do you mean by foundation?
Foundation, say for example, you have your ideas.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a center to just
and the empirical basis is what you are talking about. Yes, that's why I mentioned those books that I just gave you so that you can read them and find out. I list all the empirical foundations. I talk about the causes of that emergence. Just like, for example, if you have cancer, the doctor would say, okay, let me see, the causes of your having a cancer are A, B, C, and D. Maybe you smoke too much, maybe you do this and this. And those are the causes. So the same thing about democracy.
Excuse me there, that might I understand. What I was asking you is like the foundation, like when we say the Gates Foundation, for example, I don't know, Kennedy Foundation and things of that. So,
a think
Dr.
tank.
Peter Booth Foundation.
Like a think. No. As I said before, when you ask me the question about money, I don't depend on any of them. But in the future, I do have the intention maybe to found a new foundation. Maybe that's called the Peter Baofu Foundation, or maybe I will not call it that name. Maybe I call it a different name. Maybe the Post-Human Institute or the Foundation of the Future Human Civilization, whatever that might be. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We have been together with Dr. Peter Diop from the United States with new ideas. I would rather see them as if they are like revelations for the next generation, whereby we talk about the post-democracy world and the post-capitalism world, that there will be new ideas and new isms, if not new belief or new way of doing things all over the world in terms of economy, the politics, the region and the relations all over the world. But what really has touched me is to do with avoiding copying too much of the ideas, or too much of the systems, the way of life, and relations, so as to be in one or another, standing on our own heels, be original, and think the way we just can persevere in development intricacies. Thank you very much for watching us. This is a Maarifa program. Next time we have to invite Dr. Diop. I don't know when time comes, and if at all be there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.